So actually we no need to do the introduction like what's your name. Oh, you can take off your mask. Oh, you can clip the microphone onto your t-shirt.
Okay, how do I do it?
Okay. Okay. You can take off your mask yeah, for the interview.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So thank you so much for coming for the interview. Yeah. So how then when you answer you just answer as Mr. Lim and instead of like answering to like what you think of my lessons, so answer in third person.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you think, how do you come across Mr. Lim's lessons?
So I came across Mr. Lim's lesson when I asked my friend if they attended any chemistry tuition. So I happened to have one of my close friends, he attended Mr. Lim's classes around January. So I heard that basically his parents found online about this tuition center and he recommended that I go there. Because my chemistry grades were fluctuating. At first it started at A1, but then at one point I dropped to F9 and then it went up to B3, but it was still like not very good. And I know that my chemistry foundation was quite weak. So I didn't expect myself to do quite badly at first, but in the end, I guess the jump was relatively big between Sec 1 and 2 to upper Sec. So in around March I joined. I was a bit skeptical because I thought there was like only around maybe 7 months before the major exams. But I decided to give it a go since the previous test before I joined the tuition center, I got a D7. So at first I joined Mr. Lim's class, like it was during the COVID pandemic. So I remember my first lesson was at home and I had to do it via Zoom. I also thought maybe, okay, is that Zoom, it's not the physical class, so it could be a bit harder to understand things.
Okay. But do you find Mr. Lim's HBL as contrasted with probably like other tuition or school?
Okay, I guess Mr. Lim puts in a lot of effort to try to compensate for the fact that we are doing HBL and not a physical lesson. So one thing he did was Kahoot quizzes for us to do at the end of each lesson, and then we could compete with each other and see how, like test our understanding to see if we understood the concepts we teach earlier, and sometimes we give prizes also, but that's during physical lessons. He also sometimes doesn't allow us to compete, like just allow us, he just removes the time limit so you can take our time to digest and do the test to see if you really understand it. And okay, what's the question again?
How do you find Mr. Lim's HBL as?
Oh, HBL. And okay, so I think that Mr. really puts in quite a lot of effort to do HBL, because I think by other tuition classes, like when I do it with my other tutors, they don't do things like Kahoot quizzes or whatnot. So I think Mr. Lim really puts in a lot of effort to try to make the lessons engaging despite the challenges.
And so how do you benefit from Mr. Lim's lesson?
So Mr. Lim, because he uses analogies and tries to explain difficult concepts to us, so even if we don't understand something in thought at first, like we can always feel free to approach him at the end of each lesson or during a lesson to clarify the concepts and like break it down further. So I found it very useful because I found some concepts in taught in class like quite difficult to grasp, but then after Mr. Lim explained, then with his consultations and so on, it helped me realize actually they are not as difficult as I previously thought, and once I get it, it's quite easy to remember because he really tries to help you understand, even if it has to like sometimes go beyond the syllabus. But because when you understand, you'll be able to retain that information better and you know just appreciate the subject more. So I think Mr. Lim helped me to like chemistry more, and I think that's why I managed to get a distinction for my O-levels.
And how do you find Mr. Lim as a teacher?
Okay, I find Mr. Lim as a very fun and very, very joyful person. So during his lessons, you like make a lot of fun like analogies and jokes to like try to keep us interested in chemistry. So I remember before they announced the common last topics, when Ms. Lim was teaching us organic chem, he wanted to teach us like help us better understand how the bonding between the different atoms work. He used an example of mutilated Barbie dolls to explain the concept, and I found it quite funny. And it also helped help me to like not find it so boring as well. So yeah, I think Mr. Lim is like a person who really care for his students.
So how do you find the Camp Bible?
Okay, I found the Camp Bible to be a very, very clear and concise notebook. Like it helps consolidate all the information in the textbook into like one booklet that's not as thick. So it's like quite portable and easy to carry around. And because it's clear and concise and it's very organized. So like when I want to find something, I can easily just flip through the pages and find whatever I need. It's not the kind of notes where you find like, how to say, it's like full of visuals, but there's a balance between the wording and like pictures used. So it may not be like super colorful, but there are also still visuals to help. So I think that is really good.
And what's one thing that you miss about Mr. Lim's lessons?
I think the colored quizzes, and yeah, I think that is the most fun part. I can get to pit myself against other peers in Mr. Lim's class and see how I'm doing and copying the lessons. If there's also another thing, maybe I'll also miss Mr. Lim himself, because I find him a very cheerful person and nice person to be around with. Yeah.
And so what will you tell to like students who are considering about taking lessons in Mr. Lim?
You should consider coming. I really think he really has a lot of dedication to the students. So even though, for example, he doesn't have a lab, he still like puts in a lot of effort to make sure like we can try to get lab lessons in class. So I heard that he had to go to East Coast just to get limestone, and like had to spend 3 days just going around the whole of Singapore just to get chemicals. So to make sure that we can get the practice needed for our practicals, even though he may not have like the best lab in Singapore, but I can see his dedication and I really appreciate it. Like, I think it's hard to find such teachers who it's hard to find teachers like this who care a lot for the students and try his best to help them. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think that's all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just
Okay.